My name is Akshay Sharma. I am a dancer, choreographer and maker. I am from India and I live in London at the moment. I am from India. I grew up there. I lived there for a considerable period of time. I have that inherent knowledge of the heat of the summer, the education that I had, which the interactions, the conversations with people, family, environment, which is very much present within me, because it's I don't know, it's part of who I am. But also then I'm here, and sometimes it presents itself as a new place altogether, a new landscape that has to be navigated. Sometimes it's familiar. And I think for me, like, the common thread between the two places is dance. That sort of something remains constant, whether it's here, whether it's there. And maybe also sort of helps me understand or navigate my relationship to dance as well. And I think very much invested in practice, in the doing also, but in the thinking about practice. And what does that do, or how that shapes people, how that shapes the artist towards the art. And also there's always this question of, what do I take back when I go to India? What is it that I take back? I do read, and that inspires me, and I sometimes sing as well. That inspires me. But also, and I think the reason I say all of these things before I say dance, because they sort of inform the practice of moving as well, which is the most important thing for me. And making sure that happens on a regular basis, that engagement with the form happens, that the body does it, the body does it, and then questions come, making happens, all of those things happen later, but the doing needs to happen first. I feel a bit excited because there are lots of questions which I don't have answers to, and I don't want to glamorize this past time, these 18 months, 2 years, because it's been a very difficult time for me as well, but for everybody. But that sense of reflection has obviously offered itself some questions. And I think right now I am really interested in those questions as to, how does my practice take into account everything? I've been making a particular piece of work, which is a solo piece of work. But all these questions are coming into that process, and also for the future. Because also the Artist Development Programme happened at a particular time. I think the essence of that for me was in that sense of reflection and doing as well. But after that period that we've all had, that is it possible to just sit and even if daydream about particular things without having to worry about XYZ. And there is a value in that. And I think that has allowed not only just to, go have different thoughts, but also to invest in this thing that I got really interested in. I started working on. When I started thinking about the project, when it was this question of inspired by or triggered by some events, triggered by some images. And I started to sort of ask myself that question, how does body relate to landscapes? And that's a very open question, but I think the question for me was, how do I embody the emotional space, that big emotional, what happens to a breaking mountain? What is probably the earth thinking during that earthquake? Or what is it going through in that moment? basically as what is the emotional resonance on the skin of the earth, and relating it to oneself. When do we reach for rocks, or in this instance rocks, but things bigger than ourselves? And I think dance is that thing bigger than ourselves, I guess, which offers that question of, I mean, which I do ask, why do we dance? And I think all of those questions for me then sort of translate in here. These are sort of scores which they've changed quite a lot, but I feel this is the memory of a particular point in time earlier in this year. And there's a lot of vocabulary which is present and helps me create the world that I am wanting to create and imagine a world. In conversations with Maven and Christine, which sort of will continue to happen. We've talked about some of these things and we've also sort of talked about taking a step back, slowing things down sometimes, concentrating on very small elements. And yes, I think I'm in conversation with a lot of different people to see how this comes together.